110k mark, you get into some of the biggest whoops that anyone's ever seen.
The track changes from day to day, so you just take it as it comes.
You just don't know what's going to be down the track. Like, the thing is, we could ride it tomorrow, but then the next day it's just a new racetrack.
It's the only race where we've got to race against the bikes as well, and you know, with a field of 500 bikes, it definitely makes it interesting.
She keeps bringing you back for some reason. You fight with her and you make up and come back.
Dip after dip, 3 or 4 or 5 feet deep, and just skipping across the top of them flat out in top gear. It's a bit of a mind-blowing experience, really.
Finke is Finke. It has the whoops. No other track has the whoops and the roughness, and these cars are built to go over rough stuff, and that's why we like coming back here every year.
In the race, you got one shot.
To most, the Tattersalls Finke Desert Race needs no introduction. To competitors, it's 450 gruelling kilometres of dust, whoops and washouts at speeds beyond those allowed on any road in this country. To the organisers, it's 2 days racing, 500 bikes, 78 cars, 300 officials and over 10,000 spectators. To the town of Alice Springs, it's a way of life. Interstate and international competitors will arrive bringing along family, friends and crew. For 3 days, the town will live, breathe and party Finke. All this is lost on the drivers and riders now forming an orderly queue at the start line. Some sit quietly, driven and focused. Others burst with excitement, caught up in the spectacle and party atmosphere of the Southern Hemisphere's greatest desert race.
You'd go home and tell people how huge it is, and it's hard to explain. It's like the V8s at home at Bathurst.
Nothing compares to Finke. We all want to race it. It's one race we want to win.
They just think we're crazy with the amount of speed and stuff like that we carry through corners.
It's just Finke. It's just the title that goes with it. All from there on, about a month to Finke, you know, it's all about Finke.
And the atmosphere is definitely one of a kind. You don't find that in any other race in Australia, not with the motocross nationals, not with anything.
The town's talking about this. The whole of Australia is talking about this.
I guess you set yourself some goals and, you know, as an off-road racer, they don't come any higher than trying to win the Finke.
Competitors will begin to arrive in Alice up to a month before the event. For the riders, a chance to ride the track on an official pre-run could be either an advantage or a sobering reality check.
You can get trashed, or your bikes can get trashed as well on this event.
From Bundooma, competitors will pre-run 150 kilometres of track to Finke. Everyone's aware of the advantage track knowledge will give them on race day. For interstaters, this track time is invaluable.
To win Finke or to be up there, you actually do got to come to Alice Springs and do a lot of time down the track.
We've just been spending a lot of time out in the desert, just practicing and practicing.
For those who've made it out here, this is the chance to test themselves against the desert after months of physical training and bike preparation. Each is aware that at race speed, even a small miscalculation could cost more than just a podium. As for the cars, only a few have made the trip from Alice. For the drivers in this year's race, most of the preparation will take place in the workshop. Untold hours and thousands of dollars will be invested in perfecting every aspect of their machines.
You know, we would change nearly every single bolt on the car after every race. Anything that takes a load or potentially has some sort of stress, we would change every race.
Personally, the top drivers, albeit don't do the physical training that the bike riders do, we spend the hours in the shed instead of on a bike.
For other events, scrutineering is a technical and safety formality. For the Finke Desert Race, it's a red carpet event.
On the Friday night, you will see one of the largest show and shines. 70 plus cars, 500 bikes, and millions of dollars worth of hardware.
Racing machinery fills the pavilions as fans get their chance to kick tyres and snap photos. Competitors show off their sponsors, sponsors show off their gear.
It's just a carnival atmosphere where 5,000 spectators and competitors can mingle. All machinery's on display.
Friday night, I think, is probably one of the most spectacular nights of the weekend. I mean, people have their pride and joy, you know.
For spectators and competitors, it's an opportunity to mingle with factory teams and the sport's finest. Everyone has the chance to hang out and talk racing.
And it's where the general public can get up close and touch this machinery, which you ordinarily can't do.
For one night a year, everyone's an expert. Bench racing, the locals call it. The could-have-beens and the wannabes all have an opinion. Theories and speculation will be the order of the evening. This year, it's all about 2-times bike winner Ben Grabham's move from the largely dominant Honda bike to the European KTM. Both manufacturers invest heavily in the race, sending factory teams as well as supporting the top local riders. Honda motorcycles have dominated the Finke, winning 9 years out of the last 10. After 2 titles on the red bike, could Grabham complete his hat-trick on a KTM?
It's a little bit faster in the deep sand where I want it to be, and I really like the way sort of the bike works in the desert and stuff like that, so I feel pretty comfortable and yeah, just happy in the whole being on the new bike.
With 4 podiums from 8 races, Brad Williscroft is not only the manager of Ben's new team Motorex KTM, but also one of its fastest riders.
You know, we had a few guys wanting to come and ride on the team, and yeah, we ended up getting Ben, and we're stoked with you know picking him up.
With no intention of letting the spot at the top of the podium go easily, the leading Honda teams are looking to their top riders to fill in the gap left by Grabham.
There's only been one time in the last 20, 30 years that a Honda's been beaten in the Finke Desert Race, and that was back in '03. And, you know, Honda have a finish rate of probably 95%. You know, their bikes just don't break down. And
riding for local team Desert Edge Honda, Ryan Branford is considered by many to be the red bike's best chance.
So they bought the #1 plate for the Finke this year. They didn't win it last year. You know, he won the race in '08 on a Honda, not a KTM.
I don't think they bought a #1 plate. I think Grabbo probably just sort of seen maybe a KTM go past him on a straight and realised that it is going to be the bike to beat.
Now on a Honda, after 11 years with Yamaha and KTM, Caleb Auric is looking for the podium that's eluded him for so long. Will switching to the Honda mean a better chance at the trophy? History seems to think so.
Yeah, eventually I'll win it. I'm very determined to win it. I will one day, so yeah, whether if it's this year, next year, or 10 years' time, I won't stop until I do.
National off-road team GHR Honda have brought over 2005 winner Jason Hill.
The manufacturers want to win. This is the only one they really want to win. They win the Finke Desert Race. It shows that the bike's so reliable, competitive, and it can win anything.
After ending a promising motocross career to begin desert racing, few riders on the track will be pushing harder for this year's title than GHR Honda rider Chad Billett.
I want this race more than just wanting to win it for the sake of winning it. I'm going to do whatever I can to win it. hell, I'll die trying to win this race. I don't really care, but I will get it.
As the Finke is round 3 of the National Off-Road Series, there's just as much passion and debate surrounding the car's King of the Desert title. Defending last year's title is Dave Fellows of the Peter Kittle Off-Road team and his co-driver Andrew Kittle.
I guess Finke, I lived in Alice Springs a lot of years and sort of started off-road racing in Alice Springs, and just the atmosphere and the people and the support the town gives the races, just you don't see it anywhere else in Australia. The track hasn't really changed over the years. It's the cars and the technology has changed, and we're just getting over the rough stuff quicker. This will be my 16th Finke.
After a strong 3rd position last year, Brad Proud is back with a new sponsor and a brand new buggy.
We're pretty confident and ready to go. I'll be happy with anywhere between, 1st and 5th, so hopefully a podium at the end of the weekend.
Some old rivalries have flared up amongst the Class 1 buggies as previous winner Hayden Bentley has taken the big V8 out of his buggy and swapped it with a smaller twin-turbo 6-cylinder motor.
That's the rivalry, the V8 and the turbos, that's been around for a long time. That's one thing I want to do before I retire, and I want to beat a turbo fair and square with a Chevy.
Alice local Chris Coulthard is going to have the whole town behind him this year as he pulls up to the start line.
I think Car 88, Coulthard and Hawker will give it a real shake this weekend.
Previous winner Shannon Wrench is also back for another go at the title, but has no uncertainties about the challenges ahead. Last year, transmission problems ruined his chance at a podium only 300 metres from the finish line.
Myself and Dave Fellows and Andrew Kittle, we seem to be pretty much on the same pace each race. That's very close between us. Mark, he's really a legend of the sport. He's won this race, I think, 5 times, and he's won the championship 7 times, so he's someone I've always looked up to.
You would give up an Australian championship to win? I think I would, personally.
The engines in these things are as good as anything out there in any other form of motorsport, and the effort the teams are putting in likewise. And the money involved with running a top car now is comparable. You buy a new race prep Jimco, you could basically buy a supercar, less the team and the licence sort of thing.
I love the sound of a Chevy V8, and I want to see one win Finke.
Not all Finke competitors have the backing of a factory team and mechanic. Dr. Maciej Mazurek has arrived from Sydney with only his bike, toolbox and trailer. Though his aims are more modest, it's hard not to be taken by his excitement.
I'm very happy with that. It's one of those things one has to do before they die. It's a big thing, right? Anybody who's seen the thing, done the thing, they regard it as one of the major achievements. And I think if I make the distance, I'll be bragging about it for many years to come.
With one of the most competitive fields in the race's history and the prospect of a wet, dust-free ride, everyone knew this was the start of something big.
Sort of after Friday night, everyone gets down to business. It's all enjoyable at Scrutineering, and then, everyone puts their racing heads on.
Walking through the lines of cars and motorcycles, it's hard not to notice the presentation and preparation that's gone into each vehicle. This is not all show. Every panel and every bolt has been checked and double-checked for race day. And for a brief moment, before the dust, mud and punishment of tomorrow's prologue, they all look immaculate. It's almost a relief as competitors begin to warm up for Saturday's prologue. This is when all the practice and preparation come together.
They used to pull numbers on table tennis balls out of a barrel, and that was your starting order for race day 1. They didn't used to have a prologue. Prologue on the Saturday, well, that's where everyone gets put through their paces. They've got 8 kilometres to sort themselves out and determine where they're going to blast off from on race day 1.
As competitors queue before the start line, it becomes clear that the rain most had hoped for has dried up and the dust is back. A good prologue will now be more important than ever.
That means that you really need to do a good prologue, because you don't want to be passing cars or stuck in dust or anything like that.
Once the last of the competitors crosses the line, the results of both cars and bikes are tabled to find the starting order for the 2009 Tattersalls Finke Desert Race. As the sun rises over the pits on race day, the cars have been unloaded and the final checks are being done. The early start means there's little time for nerves. Fans and media are filling the stands despite the early morning chill. The vehicles have formed a queue at the start line. Brad Prout sits patiently at the front. A storming prologue time has made his intentions clear.
Then I get nervous in prologue. So the start of the race, actually, it's somewhat of a relief to get underway.
At precisely 7:30 a.m, the lights go green and Prout punches towards the first corner, signalling the start of the 2009 Tattersalls Finke Desert Race. Next on the grid and a minute behind Prout is local driver Andrew Pinto and co-driver Jason Pryor. First lining up as a young rider back in 1998, more than a decade later he's in a buggy and competing at the pointy end of the National Off-Road Series.
We always thought that people in other states were bigger and better. A lot of Alice Springs guys who started their career in the Tattersalls Finke Desert Race are on the honour rolls.
The car everyone's watching, the Jimco buggy of Dave Fellows and Andrew Kittle, roars off the line. Finishing prologue only a few seconds behind Prout and Pinto means blinding dust and risky overtaking manoeuvres. By the time previous winner Shannon Wrench tears away from the line, followed by local favourite Chris Coulthard, Prout is well and truly on his way to Finke.
What I tend to do is try and focus on getting into a zone as quickly as I can and not getting too excited and potentially make a risk of making a mistake early in the event.
The Class 1 buggies are the big boys of the field. The American Jimco chassis alone is a six-figure investment. Both the Prout and Kittle teams have a chase helicopter, and in the pits it's hard to miss the massive team trucks and crews.
You know, you got to do something with your spare time, and you don't want to give all your money to your kids. So essentially we do it for enjoyment.
Yeah, we could buy a house or a boat or something, yeah, I know, but when you've had the opportunity to ride in one of these things and do 200 kilometres an hour plus down a dirt track with trees either side of you, it's very unique and very exciting.
In 2007 when we won the event, I think the $10,000 for the weekend covered my gearboxes, so it's really nothing to do with the money, and I'm part of the biggest dirt race in Australia and probably the third biggest race in the world on dirt, which is, it's huge. I mean, and it's here in Alice Springs.
Prout looks unstoppable as he dominates the early stages of the course. A close call over this sand dune near Deep Well is a reminder of how close these drivers come to the edge. That same sand dune will prove to cause havoc amongst the rest of the field. Class 1 buggies number 7 driven by Matt Hansen, 77 driven by Peter Tyler, and ProLite 196 Stephen Phillips all end their race here in spectacular fashion. Unlike most of the other class buggies, Brad rides alone. Without a co-driver, Prout has to keep an eye on the gauges and mirrors while operating the car's onboard adjustment systems. Not a big deal as you drop the kids off at soccer, but over rough terrain at three-figure speeds, it's a different story.
So it's really just a safety issue. I mean, I think there is a lot of advantages in having a navigator, but to me personally, I think I would be a little bit too concerned about their safety, and possibly that would, have some bearing on how fast I would go.
Despite their strong prologue, local drivers Pinto and Pryor are forced to pull over with mechanical problems only 60 kilometres from Alice. Running the same chassis and suspension as the Pro Class buggies, the first of the ProLite buggies begins their run. The Sanderson father and son team are limited only by engine size and an occasional disagreement over who should be driving.
He gives me a ribbing all the time. He's get up, you old man, what are you going so slow for? Can't win, then I get up and slow down, slow down.
We can't win. We are competitive because we both drive the cars.
But for the pair of them, it'll always be a family affair.
Oh, it's great, yeah. I'm glad the wife doesn't want to jump in because she'll want something bigger and better, because they're such good machines,
She enjoyed it too much.
She'd love it too much, yeah, would be ticked out.
The trophy trucks are an imposing sight. These brutes may look like something built by Tonka, but as the tracks got rougher, they're getting closer to the front of the field. Alice local Bruce Muir has raced this class for over a decade and watched it grow to challenge the buggies.
The machinery's got a lot faster, and the top cars that come here now, the years ago I think there were maybe 3 or 4 top cars. Now you're getting 20 top cars here.
You're on fire 200 or 300 metres back.
Not far behind Prout and Kittle in third place, Shannon Wrench is making good time when a broken throttle cable forces him onto the side of the road. With the Kittle buggy now chasing Brad Prout for first place, a plume of black smoke is the first hint that something is horribly wrong. A broken fuel line has caught fire, and the results are catastrophic. With Prout now out of the race and Wrench repairing his broken throttle cable, the Kittle buggy sails through the 150k mark into the whoops. Car 88 of Coulthard and Hawker find themselves in second place, and not far behind in third position is Finke legend Mark Burrows. Following Burrows is 18-year-old Travis Robinson. Leaving Alice in 10th position, Travis has wrestled his way into 4th, marking him as a young driver to watch. After starting a minute behind Robinson, buggy 18, Hayden Bentley, is pushing to make up time and now only seconds behind. Unfortunately for Hayden, the speed and terrain takes its toll, and damage to his suspension will leave any questions about the new Turbo V6 unanswered. Sitting on the edge of the legendary Finke River, the community of Apachula will host the competitors and their crews in a campsite almost as big as the town itself. A flat tyre and a broken throttle cable have failed to stop the Kittles buggy as they fly over the Apachula jump and on their way to the finish line, marking the end of day one in a blistering 1 hour 50 minutes. The pair have barely crossed the line before the local tip Coulthard and Hawker sail over the mound. Tomorrow morning the pair will start only 10 seconds behind the Kittle buggy on corrected time. It looks as though this may be the year for the big V8s after all.
You can't burn yourself out on an adrenaline rush because that's only going to get you to the 10-kilometre mark.
I'll go, whoops, whoops. Just beat the desert, try and beat it. I got to beat myself before I beat anybody, really.
Yeah, I just know what I got to try and do anyway and go out there and if it happens, it happens. If not, yeah, just worry about it then.
Well, hopefully me. Yeah, I'm not coming up here to come second.
Yeah, no, feeling pretty relaxed and, yeah, ready to get into battle.
It's a matter of keeping a cool head and racing your own race and not worrying about what anyone else around you is doing.
Without the early start, the riders have a chance to relax. As they assemble in the pit area, the size and scope of this event becomes absolutely clear. Credit must go to the officials who guide this spectacle of colour and noise. With a full grid, 500 riders begin to form at the start line. But for now, everyone's attention is focused on the first 10 riders queuing 2 abreast. After the results of the prologue, the first bike on the grid is Caleb Auric, and next to him sits Ben Grabham. As the top 20 riders queue, it's hard not to notice the alternating red and orange bikes. No matter the colour of the bike, everyone's focused on one thing, ruining Ben Grabham's chance at a third King of the Desert title.
Spent the last 3 months nutting out the bike, nutting the track out, I could tell you where every corner is on that track and, any anthills that are on the track.
The locals are really fast here and they know the track, they're just used to going fast.
Before the race last year I almost threw up and I never do that. And this year it's all about getting myself into a zone that no one else is going to beat me.
you've got the shakes and your nerves. I don't get nervous, but this is the only race I ever get nervous for because it's such a big thing and you're on the line and your eyes are poking out of your head and you're raring to go.
As soon as you put that helmet off the start, you're focused and nothing else matters pretty much. I'll make sure that damper's turned on for sure. That killed me last year.
With a green light, both bikes charge towards the first corner, with neither rider giving an inch. With the inside line, Caleb Auric makes the first move. Before Ben Grabham manages to sneak underneath him and begins to pull away. Next off the line, local rider Michael Walsh and KTM manager Brad Willis-Croft. Only minutes from the start line, Ben Grabham wastes no time in setting the pace. With the gap widening, Caleb is now being forced to chase the two-time champion. Both aware that with 450 k's to go, anything can happen. Starting 10th, previous winner Ryan Branford is pushed into 5th by Deep Well until a breakdown forces the Honda hopeful out of the race.
Sort of started skidding out across some rubble, just high-sided me into the ground. Nothing too major, just sort of went bang and stopped. It's sort of the first time that I've ever experienced anything like that. So
Ben Grabham pulls into his first fuel stop just past Redinga. All riders will have to fuel up at least twice on the track. For pro riders, every second counts. So both KTM and Honda teams have organised fuel stops with crew and high-tech filling equipment.
Just pull up. We got the dry brake fuel setups, and before you know it, they're tapping you on the shoulder to fire it back up and get going.
Having a fast fuel stop in and out, well, that's half your battle as well. You know, some guys like to get off the bike and have a bit of a stretch, but ours is that fast.
Some guys do one fuel stop, but that just means they got to carry more fuel in the loop section. We'd rather have 2 fuel stops, and that 20-second rest can sometimes help you.
Whoops up here are the biggest things I've ever seen. The whoops up here can swallow a bike. They're basically a single jump after a single jump after a single jump, and they're not even. If you want to get up over them, just hold it pinned and just look out ahead and just hope that the bike is straight and doesn't cross up.
First of the locals through Bundooma is Honda rider Michael Walsh. After dropping 2 positions to Willis-Croft and Billet, he rounds out the top 5. 2 minutes behind him and now in 6th position is Craig Carmichael on a KTM.
The track is getting rougher, the bikes are getting faster, the holes are getting bigger. That's when it gets a bit scary, you know, like just telling yourself to leave the throttle wide open.
There are no surprises as Grabham heads down the final straight to Finke and crosses the line in just under 2 hours, signalling the end of day 1 for our race leader. 7 minutes later, Caleb Auric arrives, a minute ahead of Brad Willis-Croft, and then comes Chad Billet.
How's the track?
Yeah, it's rough.
Good, eh? Hey, Chad.
You bros, how'd you go?
Mate. Great. Yeah, here.
Win?
Sorry?
Good win?
Nah, bloody Grabbo got us in here, so.
Get him on the way home?
Yeah,
Yeah, pull him up.
Grabham's time is an amazing achievement considering the next 4 competitors are separated by a little less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, track's pretty chopped up from the buggies. That was good fun. Big nuts to hang on to one of them. I don't know, I probably didn't have enough bike condition or something, too fat and slow. I was going to say too many hamburgers.
Three crashes! Very glad to be here. I've never been to such a dusty place. I'm so happy to see.
I've beaten some other old parts, I know that.
Some guy claimed to be Brian Branford, but he wasn't actually.
I'll let it cool down, put another plug in it, and sweat again.
What have you done to yourself?
Oh, not much, just left the backside near Bundooma, so I'll pick it up tomorrow.
This is Rick Hall's bike. Him, Randall Gregory, Stephen Greenfield, all those old school guys that rode CR500s, they are supermen.
It's the rocks that hurt, and do this stuff.
Here's hope of finishing tomorrow, I suppose.
Have you got a bit of a strategy for the race at all, mate? Like,
yeah, start back here and finish up there.
Once you get there, you're halfway there, you know. It's a bit of relief. It's a bit of relief. That's right, it's a relief. You know, you still got to get back. You know, the race starts on day 2, I suppose, in a way.
It's a race back and see what we can achieve, so it's always exciting to get back in the car on the second day.
While the cars may look a little rougher than they did starting yesterday, the drivers are fresh and focused on the task ahead. Of the 76 cars that left Alice Springs, however, only 54 will start today. At exactly 7:30, the flag drops and Fellows and Kittle blast down the straight on their way back to Alice. Not more than 10 seconds behind them, Coulthard's big V8 roars to life and they begin their chase home. A minute and a half later, car number 13, Travis Robinson and Paul Curry tears off the line. Following them is 5-time race winner Mark Burrows and co-driver Colin Hodge. After 3.5 minutes, the dust is beginning to settle as Travis's older brother Bo Robinson and co-driver Roy Lukey's drop it into gear and begin the trip home. The first of the trophy trucks pulls up to the line. Husband and wife team Jeff and Liz Rowe. It's a long trip back to Alice Springs, and now isn't the time to hold back. One by one they begin the trek home, each focused on nothing more than the dust in front of them.
% of people that race this race do it to finish. They want the survivor spike at the end. It's only 10% of the field that are out there to win it, and only about 3% of them can win it.
It's a very hard race on equipment. 2 years ago we were leading the race and we had an 80-cent circlip come off an axle, you know. So I've been in that scenario. It's depressing. You get on with it. It happens.
150 kilometres out from Alice, Fellows is only 50 seconds in front of Coulthard. Travis Robinson is a further 2.5 minutes behind. Only a few kilometres later, disaster strikes the Kittles buggy and a broken throttle cable has them on the side of the track. 50 seconds later, Coulthard sails past, snatching the race lead. This is the second throttle cable in as many days to hamper the Kittles race campaign. Now through the Bundooma checkpoint, Coulthard has a 2-minute lead, but 140 k's is still a long way from home. Car 13, Travis Robinson, is now in second place with a considerable 5-minute lead over Mark Burrows. A repaired throttle cable finally has Fellows back on the road, but 7 minutes behind Coulthard, who's unaware that his closest competitor, Travis Robinson, is the latest in a long string of DNFs. Soon after, a flat tyre costs Coulthard valuable time. By now, Fellows is pushed up to second place. A quick tyre change allows Coulthard to hold on to a 2-minute lead as he passes through the Redinga checkpoint. But as fate would have it, a broken axle leaves Coulthard stranded at the side of the track, and after a decade of competition, he's rethinking his future with the race.
This is my last one. Like I said before, it could have ended in a fairy tale, but that wasn't meant to be. But you know, I'm happy with what I've done and what I've achieved, and time to hang up the boots.
Soon, the Kittles buggy flies past Coulthard now with a 1-minute gap on Mark Burrows and a further 2 minutes on Travis Robinson's brother Bo. David Fellows and Andrew Kittle charge through the last few corners in front of the stands before crossing the line. 4 minutes later, Burrows and Hodge enter the chicane for second place, while Bo Robinson and Roy Lukey's fill the final spot on the podium. The first of the trophy trucks crosses in 4th position. Former locals Jeff and Liz Rowe rightly proud for mixing it with the lighter, faster Pro-Class buggies. Terry Rose and David Hartwig cross for 5th. 40 k's from Alice and the Sandersons are chasing Watt and Matthew for the Pro-Light class win. Kuhn and Brebner cross in 6th, and making the pass, Wayne and Stephen Sanderson cross 7th, winning the Pro-Light class. Only seconds later, Justin Watt and Joel Matthew cross in 8th. Bruce Muir and Gavin Rayner finish in 9th and take 3rd in the trophy trucks, and rounding out the overall top 10 is local duo Brett Taylor and Damien Smart. Of the 78 cars that started here yesterday, only 36 have made it home. As drivers and navigators climb from their vehicles, the scale of what they've achieved is reflected in their dusty grins.
I didn't know whether we were in the lead or not until the very end and we couldn't see fresh wheel tracks.
First position or last, this is why they've come to race the Finke, and this is why they'll be back again next year.
We ran out of power steering on the way home as well, so it's been a very eventful weekend.
The attrition rate's a good thing, I suppose.
Safety rules, you know, take it easy, and that kind of goes out the window as soon as you start it up, you know, on race day.
Definitely like to return and do it again and hopefully make it to Finke and back.
Nah, lost it, mate, years ago.
Back at Finke, the bike riders are preparing for the run home, trying to keep warm and staying focused in the hours before the flag drops.
They're just wiring on the tiles so that on the way home he doesn't burn his chest or anything going so fast.
Can't take nothing for granted out here.
Corners, the track's pretty hard to read this year. It's obviously a lot drier, harder to see.
Yeah, she's feeling a bit sore.
I've got a big blister on the inside, another one there, so lost a bit of skin.
I'm in pain. I've discovered something about myself. The pain can be pleasurable.
As the bike life's good, rider's a bit beaten up.
Race to the Esky.
Race to the Esky, something like that.
Yeah, one slip up and we'll be there.
See how we go on the way home, try and push it a bit, I reckon.
Grabber moves up to the line and waits for the signal. All of a sudden the flag drops and a big KTM comes to life. With a new bike, new team and everything to prove, Caleb moves up to the line. It's 7 minutes and what must feel like an eternity before he begins chasing Grabham home. A minute later, it's Brad Williscroft's turn.
There's the girl, waiting your table. She's a movie star.
With Chad Billett and Mark Sladdick rounding out the top 5. Riders who have finished within 20 minutes of the leader will be leaving on corrected time. The remaining riders will then form grids of 8 in their finishing order. No matter what end of the field you're from, it's going to be a long, dusty ride home.
She's a movie star. You can have it all.
I just had it dialed on the way home and just felt like Superman basically, just standing up on the pegs and sliding the bike and what had happened, and it just cracked the piston straight down the centre. Yeah, and then it started losing all power. I thought it might have been something electrical or something like that.
With Auric out of the race, Grabham and Williscroft now make up the 1 and 2 spots. Chad Billett is 2 minutes behind them in 3rd. Mark Sladdick moves into 4th position, and only seconds behind him in 5th is Craig Carmichael. Back at Finke, riders are still lining up to begin their run home. In fact, the leaders will be halfway to Alice by the time the last riders begin their trek home. The procession of bikes continues back towards Finke. The last riders are now on the track, and watching them tackle the rough terrain couldn't make the contrast to the leaders more obvious. Riding a smooth and dust-free second place, Brad Williscroft hits the faster road section before Deep Well and his last fuel stop when the unthinkable happens.
I didn't hit no rock or anything. I just got a flat tyre and it was about the 120k mark. Our fuel stop's at the 80k, so I had 40 k's to go with this flat tyre.
Racing for a KTM 1-2 with Chad Billett only minutes behind, Brad pushes the flat tyre as hard as he can, finally losing second place as he pulls into his fuel stop to make the repairs.
I got going probably about 10-15 seconds after him, and I ended up getting on the straight under brakes and yeah, got in front of him, and then I just charged all the way home.
With Alice Springs nearing, Grabham just isn't going to slow down. As Grabham comes within striking distance of Alice, he doesn't give any indication that he plans to let up.
There's no other race out there where I'm going so fast for so long, and like I said to someone back home, I said it's just like being in a crazy cop chase out here. There's no track I've rode in the world that compares to it.
Williscroft and Billett are not far behind, however. Just a small mistake could change everything.
Me and Ben went down to Finke and we had the helmet cam on, and we went pretty hard all the way down there. And you show people and they think they think it's on fast forward.
It's crazy how fast things are going past out here. Like, it doesn't scare me, speed. I don't know why, maybe that's bad, but the faster I go, I start to get used to it and just want to go faster and faster, so that's all I know.
From back in Alice, the first hint of an approaching bike is the chopper in the distance. Then comes the dust. Grabham rails through the final turns in front of the spectators, ending his near-perfect ride on his back wheel in 2 hours, 1 minute 30. The bike's king of the desert for the third year in a row.
I reckon it gets harder and harder every time, but I had an awesome run yesterday and just cruised home today, and this bike's unreal.
Williscroft is next across the line 9 minutes later for an unprecedented KTM 1-2 finish. Only 30 seconds later for the last spot on the podium is Chad Billett on the GHR Honda. Rounding out the top 5 is Mark Sladdick and the first of the locals, Michael Walsh. As the leading riders begin to celebrate with fans, friends and loved ones, a procession of bikes stretches down the track. The final riders won't cross the line for another 2 hours. Even Dr. Maciej Mazurek made it home, bike number 309 out of 352 finishes. They've all come out here, drivers, riders, spectators and officials. Some haven't come far, but others have travelled across the globe. They're all here for different reasons. A survivor's spike, a podium, or just to be involved. Everyone shares a passion and a commitment to a community and a race. No one's too sure why they do it. All they know is that they'll be back again next year.